So I remember my debut uh, at Dodger Stadium, and I don't know why this has always stuck with me. But so here I am at Dodger Stadium making my major league debut. It's a thing that I've always dreamed of doing. I've now accomplished. I've like reached. You talk about reaching your like I've reached my goal. And I remember walking off the mound, and my first thought wasn't like excitement. It wasn't, man, how amazing was that? It was the two words that you just said, what now? And so even in the most successful moment of my career up until that point, it didn't, there was something else. And it didn't satisfy because now I had to stay there. Now I had to prove that the decision that somebody else made to call me up was right. And so it's just this constant cycle that you're always. It's really hard to play the game if the goalposts are always moving.
This is Coming Up Clutch with JR, helping the world's best in sports, entertainment, and business make winning a lifestyle.
What's up? It's JR, and welcome to another episode of Coming Up Clutch. Today we'll be going behind the scenes with former Major League Baseball pitcher turned leadership and identity coach, Josh Lindblom. After 15 years in professional baseball, including 7 years in the big leagues and overseas, Josh reached a moment that every high performer eventually faces. The scoreboard disappeared, and he had to ask, who am I? Oh boy, I know all about that question. Now, for Josh, just like me, that question led to a massive transformation. And today, through his company Congruency, Josh helps leaders, athletes, and couples align who they are with what they do, unlocking more identity, clarity for them, freedom, and wholeness in life. He and his wife now pour into high-performance marriages and walk alongside men and women navigating the pressure, the uncertainty, and the transitions that come with high-stakes success. Now, if you've ever wondered how to stay grounded when your game changes, or how to lead and love and live with more peace and purpose, especially in this crazy world that we're living in right now, you're absolutely going to love this episode. Today, we're going to talk about 3 false stories men tend to live by and what to do about them. We'll get into how you can't change what you're not aware of. And then we'll talk about how healthy marriages just operate and how you and your spouse can win together. And before I forget, if you're empowered by this show and learning something, make sure you follow us on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss out when we drop new episodes. Just hit that purple plus on the top right-hand corner of the podcast app. When you do that, you make it easier for others who need this content to see it. And of course, share it. Play that hero to your family, friends, and teammates by giving them the link to this or sending them to comingupclutch.com. And when you post about this episode on social, make sure to tag me and Josh. All right, here we go. Let's get Josh Lindblom live on the mic. Josh, my man, say what's up to our Coming Up Clutch crew.
What's going on, Clutch Crew? Excited to be here today.
Man, we I don't know how we're going to discuss everything that I have on my blotter today, but we're going to do our best, man. We're going to do our best. I just appreciate you making time for this.
Yeah, maybe part 1 and part 2 if we run out of time. You never know.
Hey, listen, if you're offering it up, I'm down with that. I love it. Good stuff. All right, man. Because we have a lot to discuss today. Mm-hmm. And listen, if you're listening to the show today, we're going to yeah, we'll get practical and tactical, but we're going to hit the heart today based on Josh's story, based on his work. So get ready. This is going to be one powerful and impactful episode. So listen in closely. All right, Josh, we got to get into your embarrassing moment. Now, just for context for someone listening today, you're a pitcher.
Yes. Was.
But once an athlete, always an athlete. I believe in that. Right. Yeah. So you can't take the pitcher out of you.
No, you can't.
A lot of stories I could tell you as a position guy about my pitcher buddy. So there's got to be something where it embarrassed the heck out of you, whether it was in your career or not, I want in my audience want to hear about. So share a story that Embarrassing or out of you.
Man, so I think everybody wants like the pro story, but I think probably the most embarrassing thing is the year that I got done playing. We were doing coach pitch with my 8-year-old at the time, and I got banned from pitching. Like, and I'm serious when I say this. It was the hardest thing that I've ever had to do.
Oh.
The hardest thing in my career I've ever had to do is to throw to, a little 3.5-foot 8-year-old in a strike zone with no catcher. And our assistant coach was like, I'll never forget this. After one of the games, he was like, "Hey man, we can't let you pitch anymore. Like I'm gonna have to pitch to these kids." So like, I know it's not a fun, cool pro story in front of 40,000 people. It was in front of 40, and half of them were grandparents. But I got banned from coach pitch because I was hitting kids too much, couldn't throw strikes. So yeah, that's
Hey, listen, it ain't easy. By the way, Josh, tell my listener, how tall are you?
6'5". Yeah, so I had to throw off of a knee. So that's the other thing too, is like I couldn't throw that's like Randy Johnson facing a normal human being, so I'm like throwing from 10 feet over these kids, approach angles all wrong for them. So I had to get on a knee on the gravel infield.
God.
But the issue is that when you're on a knee and you're 30 feet away, you've got like no reaction time. So, I mean, I'm coming home with bruises on my thighs. Just I can't get out of the way of the ball. Like it was probably for the best that I do.
Oh man,
I got banned.
See, this is why I brought up you were a pitcher.
Yeah, this is
learning out of the pitcher's play.
Right off the bat. You level the playing field. Like Josh is just a normal guy. Just level the playing field.
Okay, so Josh, man, so what? Just so my audience knows, you posted something on Instagram that it was a reel of you pitch. I think you were with the Brewers at the time, and you said you can't see it, but the fear of not being enough, basically never. It's like it just wore a uniform. Like it never left you. It just wore a uniform in that case.
Yeah.
Could you unpack that a little bit? Because I knew what you were saying, but I need you to unpack that a little bit because that's going to lead us some greater discussion.
Yeah. So when I work with athletes, especially professional athletes, the one thing that I tell them is that there is a 5-year-old little boy inside of you that just wants to make somebody proud. And you live your entire life, your entire career, whether it's high school, whether it is in college, whether it's professionally, you just want to make somebody proud. And the fear of that, like, is the opposite of that would be somebody being disappointed. And so I think a lot of times what happens when athletes perform, if they aren't grounded, if they don't have a solid foundation built, is they're just constantly fearful of letting somebody down. Whether that be, a parent, a wife, a friend, a kid, fans, coaches, and that fear, performance usually gets driven by fear, and it's really, really hard to be consistent when performance is driven by fear.
And what I appreciate you saying what you said, it just wore a uniform in that particular concept. Like that, I mean, everyone listening should relate to this because, I couldn't understand, Josh, why when I stopped playing and I stopped competing, why I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
So just because now I became an entrepreneur, and a lot of people listening to the show are athletes that are now entrepreneurs, leaders, and executives. It's just like, well, what do we do with that? Like, because there's one side of the argument that fear, okay, if you're driven by fear, that's a good thing. That'll keep you motivated. But I've also seen the other side of it. Mm-hmm. I've also seen the other side of it with the big F word that's tied to it, failure. So Josh, like, that's the shoes you're in now.
Mm-hmm.
You're not on the field every day. You're now straight up husband mode, leader mode, entrepreneur mode. How do you manage that on this field of play now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so I think what happens is so the first question that I ask guys is what story are you living? And when I say what story are you living, what I mean underneath that is how do you find your value and your worth in life? And so there's three primary stories that all of us live. My value and worth are defined by what I do, or produce, by what I have, or by what other people say about me.
Mm.
And so the reason that, like you said, when you finish playing, that doesn't leave you is because you're still living the same story. And to use the uniform analogy, I'm just wearing a different uniform now.
Mm-hmm.
But deeply ingrained in me from the time, like I said, that we're 5 years old. What happened when you were 5 and you did something good? What did everyone in the stands do?
Oh, it was, yeah.
Then when you failed, what happened? Nobody.
Either I heard nothing,
Yeah, you heard
or
nothing.
or mom came to the rescue and said, "It's okay, honey."
Yeah,
It's
or you were corrected.
correct.
And so what we don't realize is that these stories are so deeply ingrained into every fiber of our being. It's like innate that we do it. And so those stories follow us. And so we have to we have to look at, where am I trying to find my value and worth? And though, as an entrepreneur, in my production, so how much money do I make? What do I do? Is my business successful? What do I have? What does my house look like? What does the car that I drive look like? Do I have nice things? And then, the last one is what others say about me. And this one is really difficult because we allow so many voices into our lives. So many voices. And so we're just bombarded with all of these competing stories and narratives that are trying to define who we are.
I have to ask this question because, Josh, you're a Christian faith-filled man. I'm a Christian faith-filled man. Uh, all my guys in my Clutch Club are all believers. But here's the thing. It's a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's the faith, I believe God has got my back, this and that, there's still but what if?
Yeah.
But what if? And I know you're big on transitions too, whether it's a major career change or a deal fell through or whatever, that lingering question, okay, what now?
Yeah.
Like, this happened, now what? I'm curious how you've reconciled that. Like, you have your faith, but there's still this desire to be enough. And like you said, hear the claps, hear people say things about you, get the material, whatever the case. How have you reconciled that in your journey?
Yeah. So when you said what now, quick story. So I remember my debut at Dodger Stadium. And I don't know why this has always stuck with me, but so here I am at Dodger Stadium making my major league debut. It's a thing that I've always dreamed of doing. I've now accomplished. I've reached, you talk about reaching I've reached my goal. And I remember walking off the mound and my first thought wasn't excitement. It wasn't, man, how amazing was that? It was the two words that you just said, what now? And so even in the most successful moment of my career up until that point, there was something else. And it didn't satisfy because now I had to stay there. Now I had to prove that the decision that somebody else made to call me up was right. And so it's just this constant cycle that you're always, it's really hard to play the game if the goalposts are always moving.
Yeah. Right.
And there's no rest in that at all. And so, to go back, building off that story, I think that, how do I deal with that? First, you said it, it's hard. It's a daily struggle to wake up and ask myself the question, and I think this is one of the most important questions we can ask every day we wake up, is when God looks at me, what do I think he sees? Because the answer to that question, I think, shapes all of this. And if we're being honest with ourselves, most of the time, it's not good things. I go back to Jesus's baptism. This is my son, whom I love, in whom I'm well pleased. Most of us as followers of Jesus, we know that God loves us.
Mm-hmm.
We say that we are his sons and daughters. But the one that we struggle with the most, and the one that's most devastating, is that we don't think that God is pleased with us because of our performance.
So true.
But in the gospel now, what's true of Jesus becomes true of us. And so all of those things that that God pronounces, the Father pronounces over the Son, are now true of us. And so that question of what do I think God sees when he looks at me, those need to be in alignment with that pronouncement. And so that's like the deep work, the heart work you're talking about, that like every morning, it's like, I got my to-do list right here sitting next to me, is like, if I don't get that done and I fall short, what do I think God, like, is God like, hey man, like you had 5 things on your to-do list today and you got 2 of them done. What's going on here? And that's just not the way that he thinks.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the to-do list. This, you probably laugh at this, but it's just like, 5, man, you got 5 on your to-do list? Like, man, that's a good day for me, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, one of my mentors, though, is like, Jared, I'm curious, how many times have you asked God about what he wants on your to-do list?
Yeah.
Because it's like, and this is a whole nother topic we could discuss at another time. It's great. I get at this with all the time with both my executives and my athletes. Do you want to be a grace-based athlete or a performance-based athlete? Because like you said, like Dodger Stadium, it's like, yeah, I got my 5 done. Okay, where's the next 5? And then the next 5. Then the next 5. And I hear the other side of the argument all the time. In fact, I made the argument. Well, that's just because we're just driven. That's what made us successful. Because we push and we push and we push. But where's the alignment? That's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
You mentioned that.
And I think the thread that runs through all that you mentioned is that performance matters. Like I don't ever, because I think it's a slippery slope sometimes where it's like, oh, hey, like everything's just going to be okay.
Yeah.
God's got this. Hey, like you said, I competed at a high level for the vast majority of my life. If I were to tell you that performance doesn't matter, I'd be lying to you. Performance matters, but it's performing, like you said, from a place and a foundation of freedom and joy and grace that even no matter the outcome, it doesn't affect my identity.
Yeah.
Like I'm so secure in my identity. And this is another question that I asked too, is like what identity gets elevated? And so when you think about different identities, it's like I'm an athlete, I'm a father, entrepreneur, husband, all of these things. When the wrong identity gets elevated and it lives in the wrong story, then that's when you start to see this like striving after, what do I produce? What do I have? What are people saying about me? Then I outsource my identity to other people.
So, Josh, you mentioned stories, and I'm curious if you struggled with this. I struggle with this big time. Several of my guys have struggled with this big time, is identifying the stories that are constantly running in the back.
Yeah.
How do you go about, because I know that's part of the work, if you will.
Yeah.
How do you go about that when you don't even realize there's several stories playing out in the background?
It's just awareness. I think the more you're aware of something, the more you're aware of like, how do I react when I do well and somebody praises me? What is that? Do I constantly seek that? Because, I think, there's, and, it's always a both hands. Um, it's, I think it's hard because, as followers of Jesus, like we obviously want all glory to go to him. And I understand that and I get that. However, um, when I think about, the joy of the Lord is your strength. It's not like that was always never helpful for me as an athlete. 'Cause it's like, well, how is God being happy? Like strength for me. But the joy that God feels and the joy that God has when you're doing what he's designed you to do is, his face shining upon you, is that he's so excited to see you live into the gifts and callings that he's called you to do, the person he's created you to be and what he's designed you to do. And that's the strength, is that when you are doing when I'm on a baseball field and I'm striking guys out, like that's a piece of what the gift that God has given me. And like his joy should be my strength. And so, but there's that fine line of like, okay, how do I react when I get that praise? How do I, and this is like deep inner work where it's like sitting before the Lord and being like, okay, like, where's my heart in this? And asking those hard questions of what my motives are. Am I really doing this for you? And we're human beings and we're never going to get it right. And so like, don't think that you're trying to build yourself into some like super disciple or super Christian, because like my motives are always mixed. In Jeremiah, when it says that the desires of our heart are treacherous, the translation of that, like, it's not evil, it's treacherous. And when you think about like, we have to navigate how treacherous our hearts can be at times. And just sit, and be honest with how we talk about ourselves and how we talk to God.
But that awareness in and of itself is that verse.
Yeah.
I think part of the realization is like, we are not perfect human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And we are, hey, we are going to think that way. Okay. But you said something, my previous guest, Dr. Corey Schaefer, is going to love the fact that you're talking about this. So Josh, are you telling us that, guys, there has to be some level of reflection daily in order to get that awareness?
Yeah.
Okay. So here, I just felt the eye roll that I got from my listener right now, because again, like, us driven dudes don't, if you're a lady listening to this, I'm sorry, but you may have felt this way too. We don't have time to reflect. We don't have time to journal. That takes time. And honestly, at times it feels a little woo-woo. Yeah. So Josh, again, like, help us navigate this practically and tactically so we can get that level of awareness, so that we can be aligned with our true identity, so that we can live out in joy with the gifts, talents, and skills God's given us.
Yeah. The one common objection I think would be is like, when you think about prayer, I don't have time to pray. I need to find this article for you, but they did a recent study on productivity and prayer.
Oh yeah.
And so they tracked people that prayed versus people that didn't pray. And I think it was an hour of prayer or reflection a day. And the people that set aside an hour of prayer a day were actually more productive than the people that didn't pray or meditate or reflect. And so, like, if you think it's a productivity thing, you're actually more productive by setting aside an hour to do this, to ask the Lord, what is it that you want me to do? So the productivity thing, like, just go ahead and we can throw that out the window. And so it's, like you said, the greatest gift that you can give anybody through the course of the day is yourself. And, when your leadership is coming from a deep sense of knowing who you are, and being comfortable with that and secure in that, it's better for everybody else. Because when you don't, like, we all know when people are like that fake vulnerability, where it's like this person, like there's something off here. Like they're not really being like, how do I invite you into who I actually am and lead from that place?
Yeah.
Um, and so, practically for me, uh, it's, it's just setting aside time, um, to sit, and be silent, making sure that I'm doing my devotions in the morning. This is what this looks, from how long, the question would be, well, Josh, how long?
Yeah.
Um, you know, not helpful. I say as long as it takes. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes. But then also what's been helpful for me is, for thousands of years, I always used to like go grab the different devotionals. Like, oh, I need to do this devotional, this Bible study. Well, for
Yeah.
thousands of years, the church has set rhythms throughout the course of the day, morning, noon, and night, to pause and be aware of God's presence. And so for me, it's just pausing, setting an alarm on my phone for 5 minutes. Obviously starting in the morning, but then in the middle of the day for 5 minutes when I'm in my car, turn the radio off. And then at night before I go to bed, how do I reflect back on my day? And, we're very pragmatic, and it's like, okay, what's the payoff for this? Like, we want
Yeah.
a benefit out of this. And, and I'll tell you, like, I was that way for a really long time. Like, okay, if I set aside this time, what am I going to get out of it? It's been amazing to see how God has shown up in those times. And now my mindset is like, I don't want to miss what he might do. So it's like, you think about if you have a meeting with somebody and then you don't make it. Like, I'm never going to get that opportunity back to go back and have that meeting with that person at that very specific time. And so it's the same thing during these times, is like, man, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't have any idea what he's going to do, but I know if I show up expectant and aware of his presence, like, he might do something and it might be amazing.
It, it's interesting you said aware and expectant. You know,
Mhm.
and this was me, man. Like, it's so funny. I have this interesting ability to simplify things, like take complex things, simplify it. But for some reason, this whole like prayer reflective life, to your point, like it had to be a devotional, and it
Yeah.
had to be, you had to read this and you had to read that. And I'm like, man, sometimes just on my 10-minute break every once in a while, and I go walk around the block. Like,
Yep.
I get more from that
Mhm.
that, you know what I'm saying? Like, we are just overthinking it sometimes. Like, man, just make the
Yeah.
time. But to your point, and I love this perspective, Josh. I love this. We're so, like we said, pragmatic. The way you put, like, man, what if I don't spend that time? What am I going to miss? Because us Americans these days, thanks to cell phones, we love FOMO, man. We love FOMO. But no, it's so good though. Like, what am I going to miss out on what God is doing?
Mhm.
Because I've decided to scroll on my phone for 30 minutes instead of spend time with him.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And, I think it goes back to like the question that kind of underlies all of this is like, how does God speak to us? How is it that we are able to discern his voice in our lives? And, obviously, God speaks to us through creation. He speaks to us through his son. He speaks to us through the scriptures. But then the other way, that, there's more ways than this, but just to simplify, the last way that he speaks to us is through our thoughts. But like you said, a lot of us don't even take 10 minutes to sit down or go on a walk. One of the greatest privileges that we have as human beings is that we can think about what we're thinking about. No other creature in the universe has the ability to think about what they are thinking about. And so it's like, okay, like I have this thought am I worried about this? Well, great. I can take that to the Lord. Do I have a dream? Do I have a dream or an aspiration or a goal that I want to accomplish? Great. I can use that. And so like being in tune, one, with emotions and feelings and thoughts, like God has given us all of those as ways to communicate with him. And so a 10-minute walk, and it's like, sometimes like I'll take my journal out and I'll just write down what the thoughts that come to my mind. I don't edit. I just, whatever comes up, I write it down. And like, then that becomes like the way that I start to talk to Jesus while I pray.
That's good. That's good. Now, for you're listening to the show, I want to bring us back to how we even got here. Like we got on the topic of, am I enough? Now what? And Josh, you had mentioned like look, part of managing that, overcoming some of the things that are negative around that is awareness. And obviously awareness is elevated with reflection. And you listen, whether you do it Josh's way or take a 10-minute walk like me, we don't care how you do it. We're just encouraging you to do something.
Yeah.
Because no matter, you will not regret any level of reflection, any level of sit down. Like, you will not regret it. And this is coming from two dudes right now who have admitted to you that we did not do this for a long time.
Yeah.
We did not practice this, but now we're seeing the blessings of it from doing this practice.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
To say and it's good when you're starting out to have a framework. So it's like anything, like when you start a workout plan, it's good to have a framework. So that way you take the thinking away. And so there's a really good book. I think it's by Chuck DeGroat. It's called Healing What's Within, or Healing What's Inside. I can't remember exactly. But in the introduction or first chapter, he talks about the first 3 questions that God asks in the Bible. And so, the first one is, where are you?
Oh.
So where are you physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? Where are you?
I've asked me that question all the time.
Yeah. Where are you? Yeah, mine too. Where are you?
I'm like,
well, the map, Maps is saying I'm here. Well, you're not there. So where are you? Who did you listen to?
Oh.
And then the last one that he asks is, did you eat from the tree? So did you do what you weren't supposed to do? So where are you? Who did you listen to? Did you eat from the tree? And so those are like, if you've got 10 minutes at the beginning of your day, where are you? Emotionally, spiritually, physically, like, be honest. Who are you listening to right now? Like, what are the voices in your life that are like, and just asking those questions, I think, is a great start for anybody.
That's really good. Those are easy questions.
Simple
to ask. Hold on, I'll write that by straight that, Your Honor. Simple to ask, not always easy, because sometimes you don't want to hear who you're listening to, and sometimes it's the own voice in your own head. Josh, okay, so you have 4 kids, right?
Yes.
4 kids, married. How long have you been married?
15 years.
15 years. Oh, that's strong. 15 strong.
Yeah.
Okay. So I should talk about this more, especially with guys like us. So the wives, they got to deal with us. Yeah. So I'm curious, do you have a perspective that, in communication with your wife, that more men need to hear as they're going through the, clarifying identity process, just transform, like getting really clear on who they are, who they're becoming, and getting that alignment. And like, the wives are walking with us. I mean, we were talking offline before this, and just like, hey, look, we're married. It's 2 is 1. So I'm sure your wife went through hell and back while you were going through.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 times, I think. She got the ticket stub. She got the ticket stub saved.
Okay, so I'm curious, Josh, could you speak to that a little bit? Because I talk about awareness, and I admit this fully.
Yes.
I wasn't aware of how much my wife was struggling
Mm-hmm.
because of my struggle with this. It
Yeah.
just my identity.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a little bit before we close this down.
Yeah. I think as a professional athlete, I'll speak from that space real quick. For 15 years of my life, everything was done for me. Literally everything. Like full clothes were folded, clothes were clean, clothes were hung up, bags were packed, luggage was taken, everything. And so the entire world, this goes back to the story, the entire world existed to serve me. And so when I come home, that's the story that I'm carrying into the doors every single day. And so when I don't see clothes that have been sitting on the stair for a week and I don't carry them up, when my bag stays packed and I'm expecting somebody to do it for me, this goes back to awareness, is like, that's hard to break. 15 years, a 15-year habit's hard to break. And so creating an awareness, having communication, not getting defensive, with her, and, realizing, like you said, like, we're in this thing together. Like marriage, I give this example of marriage. You have a business, you have a team that you are responsible for. Imagine if your your first meeting of the year, you walked in and you said, guys, here's the goal for the year. Listen up. This is important. We're going to break even. But that's the response you would get, right? Like, the response you would get is like, what? Like, break even? I'm out of here. But I think, that is the way that most people view marriage, is that the goal is don't get divorced.
Ooh.
Because as long as we break even, and this is a hard truth, because like I've been there. Like, we've been there, and not that we haven't been close to divorce, but it's like, hey, we're good. Well, marriage isn't designed to be good. Marriage is designed to get increasingly better every year of your life. And so if you're not, up and to the right in your marriage, then then the communication or whatever else it is, like, that's something to like look at. Like, there's something that's going on. And so I think, in our marriage, we dealt with this when I got done playing, is that, I wanted to chase after all of this stuff. And then we realized, like, I looked up and she was in the rearview mirror again, because I wanted to accomplish stuff. I wanted to provide, I wanted to support. But it's us together. It's it's a co-mission where, like, I can't be myself unless I have her. I can't be fully me unless I have her. She can't be fully her unless she has me. And like, we've been intricately and uniquely woven and designed to be together, and to go together to make the biggest impact possible in this world. And we can't do it on our own.
Josh, what if you had to go back in time, I'm curious, and there is one action you could have taken that you think would have strengthened your family foundation, your marriage foundation. Could you identify it?
Yeah.
Earlier, like strengthen it
earlier. Yeah. It's honestly, it's been over the last probably like year and a half or so in our marriage that we've realized this is, so we were at a marriage conference and, we got into an argument, and like, here we are at a marriage conference. Like, we're supposed to, like, the irony in this is wild. And I'll never forget, the next day, we go to bed mad at one another. We wake up the next morning and we're talking back and forth and communicating. And we both were like, man, no one ever taught us how to be married. Like, no one ever, like, the best that you get is like 3 or 4 sessions with your pastor, premarital. And then it's like, hey, go get them. You mentioned earlier, mentors offline, finding people in your life that, and we've been lucky with this, and we've had some really great friends around us that have shown us how to do marriage the right way.
Yeah.
So finding people and learning from them, asking questions, learning how to, investing in the skill of, like, how do we handle conflict? How do we identify like the activating events in our lives. Like, these things happen to us. What do I think about them? What do I believe about them? And then how does that shape the way that I react? This goes back to awareness. And it's like both of us, I think what we have now that we didn't have then is like we have a framework for how we argue.
Ooh.
And that might sound bad that like, oh, Josh argues with his wife. Like I would argue if you are arguing,
Problems.
then we have problems. And arguing might not be the right word for it, but like how we communicate about the ways that we've wronged each other.
Ooh. Can you share the framework? By the way, could you share the framework? Or is it giving away too many of
No,
you?
it's not giving away. I gotta think.
Be like,
I gotta think about this.
honey, what are you sharing about? No,
Yeah.
just keep it G-rated, but
Yeah, and so the first, the first question that we ask, this is where it starts. Is I ask, am I viewing you as an enemy or a friend?
oh god,
This
is pure gold. This is pure gold.
That's like that's the starting. So that's the starting point for us, because the ways that enemies react to one another is that they fight and then they retreat. And I bet people listening that are going or arguing or have some different issues in their marriage, like that's the way that they fight and argue, is like you fight, you retreat, you fight and you isolate, come together, isolate. But friends come together and seek unity with one another. And so that's right off the bat. That's the first question. Am I viewing you as an enemy or a friend? The second thing is humility. It's self-awareness. It's understanding. It's sitting back. Where can I take responsibility for what's going on? We have to unplug from one another for a little bit to process our emotions, to think about what we're thinking about. And so it's like that self-reflection of how do I begin to see my part in this? Then we come back together, and we have a process that we use where, like, because this happened, I believed and I thought this, and then I created an atmosphere and environment of this, and that led to me acting in this way. And then we move and we seek to resolve the issue. Like how can both of us win? Because if one wins and one loses, we both lose. And so just understanding, like, even how to argue, how to deal with difficult situations and just talk about them has been like a game changer for us in our marriage.
Oh God, Josh, this is pure gold. I gotta spit this back because
Yes.
this is absolute pure gold. I'm so glad you brought this up because, again, to your point, just like parenting, no one taught us how to be parents. I mean, we watch our parents do marriage if we had that blessing to have parents, right? And we just watched the parents ourselves.
Well,
at the time, we didn't like it.
And not a good thing or a bad thing, but that's usually the model that we have. And so we carry that model unknowingly into our own marriages. That's what we emulate. That's what we embody, is the way that our parents modeled. And so it's understanding those tendencies that we have to parent or be married in those ways.
Sure. Okay. So I got to repeat this. I want to put a placeholder in this. I know we're at the end of time here. I would love, because I have a lot of sports parents who listen to our show.
Yeah.
And I know you've been vocal about the state of amateur sports right now. I would love to hear your just plea to the sports parent listening in today. But first, I want to recap this. Question one, in terms of the framework of how we argue, I love this. Am I viewing her as, if you're a male, am I viewing her as an enemy or a friend? It's funny. It's not funny. It's just the way I go about things. Alter ego and psychological distancing, that's an identity play. And I actually, when I was writing this down, I put ally.
Yeah.
Are you viewing me as an enemy or an ally? Allies are on the same side of the battle. And if we're not mistaken, we are in war right now for our marriages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The enemy does not want a strong marriage. Yeah. So I love that. Okay. Second, humility. I actually got this principle from one of my business mentors. He said, as the leader, it's always your fault. Even if it's not your fault, if you go in thinking it is your fault, you'll be in a better position to actually resolve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. Take ownership. Step 3. I just put my own little simplicity on it. I said, this is more of a labeling situation. Like you're labeling the situation because this happened. This was said, this was done. Love it. And then 4, you move to resolve the issue. And again, if you're on the same side, if you're allies with one another, it's a win-win. Yeah. It's not a win-lose.
Exactly.
Pure gold. Josh, licensed marital counselor. Here we go, baby. I know.
We're all over the map today. I love it. We're hitting everything.
But I mean, if you think about it, the people listening to the show and they know, Josh, the pillars of performance that I really hit hard are mind, body, and relationships.
Yeah.
And this is the part of performance we don't talk about enough.
Yeah.
How our relationships are a key to it.
Yeah.
I'm glad we went there.
Yeah. And segue into the question you brought up with parents and youth sports.
Please.
Is because we have this tool and framework now in our marriage, it has come out with our kids and our parenting and how we deal with the things that they deal with. And so they don't know that we're walking them through this, but we're teaching them, hey, what happened? Did you have any responsibility in what happened? How are you thinking about what happened? How are you feeling about what happened? What did you do because of that? And so it's like we're walking our kids through this and they don't even realize it right now that we're doing it with them. But it's cool to see their response to this, to using this.
It's great because I love this framework. It's so applicable to beyond marriage. But it's like, this identity, just to close the loop here. Yes, getting clear on your identity, on who you are, and who you're becoming. Yeah, we can argue there's a goal line to that. You know when you're clear on that. However, aligning our actions with our identity, that's a constant. We are gonna win, we are gonna lose, we are gonna fail, we are gonna succeed. And that's what I'm saying. Like what you have brought up today, Josh, has been so instrumental because we have to have frameworks and plans, objective frameworks and plans that when we do hit a lull, we got something to fall back on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. All right, Josh, could you tell parents they're crazy? Could you just give her 30 seconds and say,
one of them. No, I'm kidding. No, I am.
Like parents, could you play in my narrative to parents like, yo, we're doing this all wrong. Could we slow down a little bit, please?
So I will, I'm not controversial, but I'm kind of controversial on this issue. And I'll kind of tie everything back together.
Okay, please.
Okay, it's going to be
close it up.
Yep. So when we talk about identity, so first let's say travel sports cannot do anything to anybody. Travel sports are an inanimate object that do not have thoughts, feelings, actions, hopes, dreams, whatever. So if you blame travel sports, like that's just a cop-out. They can't do anything to you. So we are a sport family. We love sport. Our daughter plays volleyball. Our son plays baseball. Our other daughter, soccer, volleyball. So like our weekends are spent at sport. And so the thing that I would say regarding identity is this: the higher up that you go in leadership, the less control you have over your identity. And so with a parent or a coach, what I see regarding identity is when I react the way that I do to something that happens on a field, I've handed the keys to my identity over to a 8 or 9 or 10 or 11-year-old kid's performance. And so this is the same in leadership, and this is what's hard the higher up in leadership you go. When you're removed from decisions, like as a coach, my value and worth, if I'm living in the wrong story, is dependent upon the performance of kids. This is like, and it's hard because it's like when coaches get fired, it's hard because it's like the coach can't perform because, like we said, every performance underlies everything.
Yeah.
And so, how do you create an environment where performance can happen? And I think that wraps back to how do we create an environment where we're like known, loved, and seen, and we can perform from that place.
Yeah.
The second thing that I will say to the youth sport thing is, this is from a Christian perspective, is like I said, the problem is not youth sport, the problem is intentionality. And so most people use it as an excuse rather than being intentional with, hey, when I go to these tournaments, I know that I'm not going to be, for, however many weeks out of the year, I'm not going to be with my local church. But I can create conversations that are gospel centered and be intentional with how I use this time. Because as a coach, like I've said this before, like I spend 20 on the low end, probably 10 hours with the kids that I coach during the course of a week, low end, upwards of 24 hours. And so if I'm not using those 24 hours every single week to be intentional with the kids that I coach, like I am missing the boat. Because, 90 minutes on a Sunday, 90 minutes at a Bible study or a men's group, we're looking at 3 to 6 hours, maybe spent in a local church, and I get 24. So it's intentionality, with the time that you're using. And it's viewing sport and changing the perspective of how you view sport and how sport can be used.
That's good. That's good. Well, I mean, and it just comes back to, we got to keep doing the identity work.
Yeah.
And once we've done the work and we're clear on it, we got to keep doing the work to make sure we're aligned with it. And that I see it all the time in youth sports and whew, man, this is again, we're out of time. We're going to have another conversation around this, but man, it's really hard for me with kids of age now to be in this environment where it's like, what agenda are we really on right now? So as for me and my household, okay, Josh, shutting this thing down before we get to Big Domino. Where can we find you? Where can we find the work that you and your wife are doing? Share it with us, please.
My Instagram handle is at JLBoomer25. Probably need to get that changed. Current website, it might be changing, but it's congruency.co.
Okay.
There's some resources and tools there, but a lot of the stuff is on Instagram because that's where like all the people that I want to talk to hang out.
Okay.
So that shoot me an email, shoot me a message. I always love having conversations with people. It's what I love to do. So don't be shy. Reach out.
And I know you're doing a lot of branding, rebranding, all that stuff. So if and when that URL changes, just let us know. We'll put it in the show notes. So if you're listening to the show right now, everything will be updated in the show notes. So if you missed something, go grab the show notes. Everything is right there. Josh, you're amazing, man. Like, this has been amazing. So you've said a lot. So for a Big Domino, don't feel the pressure to come up with something else, but this is that one key takeaway you want our audience to walk away with, knowing that when they walk away with this and implement this, life gets a little bit easier. In some cases, some things could be unnecessary. What is that Big Domino you want us to walk away with today?
Man, we've said so much. When you were talking last, I think there's just a quote when it comes to the youth sport that I want to share.
Please.
Kaz McCaslin said this. He's the founder of Upward Sports. Says that there's a race to the heart of every child, and the first one there wins. And it's like, if that doesn't fire you up, if that doesn't charge you to be more intentional with the way you're using your coaching and your parenting, like that quote for me, like always comes up when I'm thinking about kids, is that I want to be the first one, because I want to shape the stories. I want to shape the identities. And I want them to know the voices that they can listen to that reinforce all of those things.
So good, man. Gosh, if we just approached everyone looking for get to their heart first, instead of their mouth. Gosh, this social media and the world would be a much better place right now. So
way better,
brother. I appreciate it. You are the best. We went a little over time, but I appreciate all the time that you've given us.
Yeah, this has been fantastic.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you.
That's my man, Josh Lindblom. Here's the deal. If you were blessed by today's episode, if you learned something that you know is going to make you better, my ask is you pay it forward. Share this episode with someone you love and care about. Come up clutch for someone in your life that you know needs to be encouraged by what Josh shared today. And again, if you want the show notes from today's episode, just go to comingupclutch.com and click on this episode. All right, this episode is a wrap. Until next week's 5-Minute Drill, remember, winning isn't a result. It's a lifestyle. So keep pursuing that life of champions.
This episode is over. Get more No BS content to help you master your mind, body, and relationships by hitting subscribe. This is Coming Up Clutch with JR. Thanks for listening.